evening and welcome to the Mummers Museum. This is the Philadelphia Real Estate Symposium 2024. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Patrick Lopez.
Welcome to the Real Estate Symposium 2024. We're really excited to be here, and we're excited that everybody is here as well. I want to introduce my co-host, Josh Buckner of the Wolf of Broad Street. Josh, come on up here.
Thank you.
What do you think about this crowd?
Wow, incredible.
And the room turned out great, right?
Beautiful room, beautiful crowd, a lot of familiar faces, a lot of unfamiliar faces. I love to see it. Thank you all for being here today and on time. How's everybody feeling?
Okay, so why are we here? The purpose of the Real Estate Symposium, we all know that 2023, tough market, a tough grind. So we thought that, hey, can we bring people together, share some ideas, and we have two goals here today. Goal number one is that you leave here smarter than you walked in the door, okay? And the second thing, thank you. And the second thing is to take one idea to close one more deal. So if you just listen, we have, I would say 150 years worth of experience of people talking. If you could take one idea to close one more deal, it'll be worth your time, okay? So do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, a common theme with my Wolf of Broad Street real estate events over the years and my Real Producers platforms has always been collaboration over competition. So we have all different brokerages represented here in the audience and on the panel, an expert lineup of panelists who absolutely kill it in the greater Philadelphia real estate game. It's going to be an open book. We're going to be talking about what's working, what's not working, and as I always say, iron sharpens iron. So that's the real goal, collaboration over competition. Let's help each other succeed in 2024 and beyond.
Perfect. And now please do me a favor, put your cell phones away. Okay, you're here for 2 hours. We have some great panelists, once again, over 150 years worth of experience. They have allowed them to have time to come out here or donated their time. So have respect and have respect for other people. Put your phones away, it's just for 2 hours. And once again, we want you to take away one idea to close one more deal.
Absolutely. And this event would not be possible without our sponsors. I'd like to give a quick shout out to our 7 sponsors of the first annual Greater Philadelphia Real Estate Symposium 2024. First, let's give it up for Mr. Pat Lopez here with Quain Oak Mortgage.
Thank you.
Big shout out to Corwin Jackson, Core Inspection Group. Miss Kathy Ringler with Mutual Abstract Company. LaCroix with Tom LaCroix, Allstate Agency. Do y'all like this set design? This was done by Miss Nancy Vanderswan with Staging Craft. For all of your staging needs, remember Nancy Vanderswan. Next up, we have Mr. Dylan Rubin with Story Group. He's our video production sponsor. There's going to be a lot of media coverage coming out of this event. Give it up for Dylan. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Abraham Pardo with the Urban League of Philadelphia. Thank you all so much for your sponsorship. You've all been waiting for our celebrity expert lineup of Greater Philadelphia real estate professionals. First up, do I have the music queued up? My partner, Bethany. Let's give it up for Bethany one time. She had a lot to do with this event here. It is my pleasure to introduce our first panelist, Mr. Mike McCann. Mike has a 30-year legacy as a leader in Greater Philadelphia real estate. The McCann team has consistently ranked #1 in Philadelphia for decades with over 10,000 homes sold. Give it up one more time for Mike McCann. Beautiful day. Hey, one arm push up. Give it up for Mike McCann one more time. Next up, it is my pleasure to introduce Super Dave Hudson. Super Dave is currently the president of Philadelphia Metropolitan Board of Realtists. He's the broker of Super Realty Group and a community-focused leader. Super Dave's favorite saying is, "We need more superheroes." Clap it up for Super Dave Hudson.
Super Dave in the house!
Next up, we have Miss Rachel Street. Rachel is a top-producing team leader with Compass and the owner of Hestia Construction. She is dedicated to transforming lives through real estate, and Rachel is a TV host for Philly Revival on the DIY Network. Please welcome Rachel Street. And next, it is my pleasure to introduce Lita Bonner Esquire. Lita is an attorney licensed in PA, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. She is a real estate broker and co-founder of Pax Legal. Lita is a litigator, an entrepreneur, and a problem solver. Let's all give it up for Lita Bonner Esquire. Next up, we have Mr. Joseph Bograd. Joe Bograd is the leader of the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania. He's a licensed broker in PA, Florida, and New Jersey. Joe is truly a master in the art of negotiation and closing the deal. Please join me in welcoming one more time, Joe Bograd. But certainly not least, it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Scott Einbinder. Scott is a motivational sales strategist in the residential real estate industry. Mr. Einbinder is the highest rated speaker at over 3,000 paid events in the last 20 years. Scott provides unique prospecting strategies for listings, acquisitions, outside his sphere of influence. Give it up for Scott Einbinder. All right, y'all, one more time for our whole panel of speakers. And I'm going to hand it over to Pat Lopez.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to cover some different topics. And what I want to start off is just start off with a topic, and then we'll have one person lead off, and then have a conversation. I don't need to ask questions back and forth. You just bounce different strategies that you guys do. So it's just be a conversation amongst yourself. If the conversation goes a little stale, I may ask another question to keep things moving along. How's that sound? Everybody good? We're going to spend about 10, 15 minutes on each topic. So when we call you, don't filibuster and spend the whole 10, 15 minutes. Just yourself, let everybody talk and share their viewpoints. Okay, so the first topic we're going to be talking about is social media, okay? The importance of social media, how to leverage social media in your market to market properties, engage clients, and increase your business. So why don't we start off with Joseph Bograd? Why don't you start that off? Tell me some strategies, some of the things that you're doing, what your philosophies are.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate you guys taking the time to take your command today. I feel that social media in this day and age is extremely important. I think if you're not utilizing social media, you're making a huge mistake. It's all about consistency with social media, but it's also getting your name out there. There's a lot of avenues out there, a lot of areas you can go. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's TikTok. I feel that this is the way to get your name out there if you're new to the business, and it's the way to stay in front of people's faces if you're seasoned in the business. It's definitely something you should be doing, and definitely consistency is key.
Perfect. Now, does anybody have anything to add on to that? Go ahead, jump in.
I don't like a lot of attention, so I don't do social media. Actually, social media, I realized that, believe it or not, I did not like to do videos or certain things on social media, but I realized that the more risks that I take, the just better response that I'm getting. Things that I thought that got on people's nerves or people wouldn't do, like I am the one to take pictures of food. Yes, I'm at the restaurant. I'll pull out my camera, take pictures of food, and I realize that just common daily activities bring a big response. And of course, once I have that response and that interaction, that's when I let them know about the business that I do.
Perfect. Anybody else have any ideas?
No, I
But
guess
social-
Go ahead, Scott.
Please.
Mike.
So on social media, authenticity is the most important thing. I don't want to be someone who I'm not. So I was opposed to it a decade or two ago. And then I thought, okay, let me try it. And then I tried it, and people said, wow, Mike, we had this different image of you. We didn't know you. So people got to see who the real Mike McCann was instead of this image of my sign all over or hearing things. So authenticity is the most important. And now in the last couple of years, it's really grown. So I used to do it myself for fun on Facebook and stuff. But now we have 3 people, like we've hired 1, 2, and 3 people doing our social media. So if you're not on it, get on it and get comfortable with it. But make sure you are you. And we do it both in fun, because I like to have fun on it, right? I'm a crazy dude on there. But also informational stuff, too. So a combination of both.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, and we'll let you jump right in, is authenticity, right? Show all your personality, show everything. You show your listings, but also show who you are, right? To connect, to create that bond. So go ahead, Scott.
All right, so I've got a little bit of a different perspective on social media, okay? I don't think it's about authenticity.
I think it's about strategy. So many agents are on social media, and I don't know about you, but I think a lot of it is cringy. You agree? I think agents being authentic on there sometimes makes me want to cry. What are you doing? You are a professional. You're a real estate professional. You're going to be handling somebody's largest transaction. And you're on there talking about the lobster thermidor you had.
Hold on, Dave taking exception to that.
Here we go. He's Superman, I'm Super Jew. Let's do it. Let's go. I think social media, one of the things I think that realtors are struggling with, because let's face it, every realtor's on social media, and we know 80% of realtors are still failing and they're on social media. And I say, it's good to be authentic if you got a good personality, but if you got a bad personality and you're authentic, don't be on social media. I think if you're gonna be on social media, it needs to be strategic, it needs to be well thought out, you need to plan it, you can't just fly by the seat of your pants, and I think there's this perspective. You can fly with a cape, I didn't say about your pants. But I think it's very important that you sit down with a professional advisor with your social media strategy. Think about what you really want to do, what audience you really want to attract. What do you want your brand to be? Everyone says, I got a brand. What's your brand? I'm really nice. I don't think that's a brand. So I think that's the big mistake I see on social media is everybody's so worried about being out there. Everybody wants to be Ryan on Bravo. Everyone's got this show they're doing and nobody's watching. I think it's important that there be strategic execution.
Okay, that was very good, lively. And that's one of the questions I had. Branding. Take time, think. What's your colors? What's your tone? What is your objective? What strategies are you going to implement? You're already talking about that. Is anybody else thinking and working with color schemes, tonality, different strategies of gaining eyeballs? Anybody had? Go ahead, Rachel.
So I guess I'm more of a reluctant social media person. I didn't have an Instagram until I started in real estate, and our brokerage required that we open some sort of social media account. And it's one of my goals to grow it. But I find that more than just posting, hey, I sold this building, I sold it for this amount, the content that I try to share on social media that I feel like I get the most response from is something that's educational. You know, I also have a construction company, so sometimes I might post about things to look out for if you're looking at a home. Something to show your value to potential clients as well. My personality is I'm not going to dance to TikTok and so forth, and I think you have to find out what works for you, what you feel comfortable doing, and I do believe in authenticity too. And really finding your voice and what works for you. I'm an analytical person. I like numbers. I like strategies. I sold a little house in North Philly, and my client came out of pocket $750, and I posted a series of stories showing exactly how that happened and what kind of grants we got for her and seller's assist and things like that to make that happen. And I got about 20 different messages from people that really were interested in buying a house but didn't think they had enough money. I think things like that, where you're showing your value to potential clients, is what generates the most business, at least for me.
Perfect. Okay, are we already like 10, 15 minutes on there? Okay, I have another question there. If somebody's just starting off, content. Some people think organically, and once again, there's no right or wrong answers. There's a million different ways to make $1 million in real estate. Some people knock on doors, some people call expireds, other people have a great sphere of influence, some people do great on social media. So there's no right or wrong way, we're just getting some inputs here. But content, if somebody's just starting out, there's different sites where you can get information. Are any of you using any of these content providers, or it's just strictly organic?
I use a case study. Case stands for copy and steal everything. No, I do surf the internet to see what other people are posting, but I use a ratio of 1 to 4. One real estate post to every 4 posts, because I personally believe if you talk about real estate all day long, it gets dry and boring, and people want to connect with you. And they still know that I'm in real estate, but if I put a fishing video up or if I'm going to a certain location, that's the first conversation they have. They may not respond on the platform, but I always say the streets are watching. They always know what's going on, what I'm doing, but they never respond online.
Right. Just being out there. Go ahead.
I feel content is key. I think no matter what you are doing, if you're putting content out, you're already ahead of the game, because a lot of people are nervous on what to post, how to post it. But if you're consistent, and you, for example, what we do every morning at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., a video goes out. sometimes real estate, sometimes some sort of banter, something funny, but there's something going on at 7 and 7 every day, and then we have a long-form video once a week. If you're consistent with it, and you have some sort of content, that has to do with real estate, something you're eating, something you're doing, people want to see. You'd be surprised at like, what things people want to see.
Right.
And when they see what's going on behind the scenes, that's to them a step behind what goes on in the real estate industry.
All right.
Last one on here, and then we're going to move. Go
All
ahead,
right,
Scott.
here we go again, the Grim Reaper.
Security.
When it comes to content, I don't know about you, but to me it all looks the same. Like when I look at people that post content, I sit there, I see an agent talking about it's really important that your buyer get pre-approved before you go show, and I'm like,
Hold on, I take exception.
I gotcha. But that's content, and I don't think you're really doing much for people, in my view. I know that there's this whole concept of let's put out content, let's educate consumers. Let's face it, we know consumers are educating themselves anyway. My recommendation for content, and I think there's one piece of content, you rarely ever see it, but it's the most valuable content. And it's not what you're saying about yourself, your fishing expedition, your sleeping tall buildings in a single bound. Although that's good.
Security.
It's not what you say about yourself, it's what your clients are saying about you. So what you don't see are video testimonials of happy consumers. You don't see it. I can go through most agents' feeds, I'll see them talking about it. You never see the client saying, I gotta tell you, Mike did an unbelievable job for me. I gotta tell you, Mike, I love you. I love Mike. Mike did this for me. Mike did that for me. Get your clients to talk about you. That's your content. All the other content, do it.
Okay. There you go. Testimonials, right?
That's it.
Okay, some technology. Is anybody using anything? There's CRMs with AI. There's all different technologies for social media, CapCut, Opus Clips, Canva, VAs. So can you talk about that? Who wants to start that conversation off with some of the newfangled stuff that's out there that you guys are using? No? Oh my goodness, I stumped people here.
I use Canva. I used that before I switched to Compass. It has sort of a pretty good platform. And for those of us who are not social media savvy and not great at learning new apps or technology, there are a lot of tools available. They've recently incorporated AI. Personally, I haven't used it yet. Enjoy crafting a listing description myself, but if you're finding me for words, I can see how that could help out.
Okay, I guess everybody's probably using.
I'll weigh this again. Anybody who is not using CRMs and technology tools, in my view, you really don't want to be successful. Are there any brokers in this room? I'm just curious. Are there any broker owners? Do you require all your agents to be proficient in your CRM, and if not, they're fired? Probably not. CRMs are absolutely, if you want to give a quality experience and be able to keep track of what you do and really provide micro detail and understand what people are doing, if you're not using those pieces of technology, you can say you want to be successful, you can dream of those things, but you're just not taking the most basic action. There's no way that you can remember, keep track, and provide a good quality experience for people without it. I don't ever understand it. I don't know why we allow agents to even be in this business without being proficient in it, and I think it's a big mistake.
What CRM do you use?
I don't particularly use any one, but I use Salesforce for what I do, but KV Core, there are so many great CRM tools in the real estate space. You have such a great suite of options to choose from. So to me, it is unprofessional to allow you to engage with the public without it.
If you don't have a CRM, right, you should not be in the business. There's no question.
That's right.
So with technology, there's so many things out there, and you can get lost in this world. So you need to have a great, you need to, as I call it, slow and steady. And Gary wrote this one book called The One Thing. You need to master one thing and then go to the next level. So right now you could sit here and be overwhelmed. Oh, they're doing this and this. You have to have a great CRM. You have to create your database. You have to send out a newsletter. You have to find multiple lead sources. And it's so much easier today than when I started because of the technology.
Well, the big word in the business is relationships, right? We always hear, you gotta build relationships, nurture relationships. You can't nurture a relationship when you forget their name. You can't nurture a relationship when you don't know what the name of their dog is. You can't nurture a relationship if you don't remember the conversation you had. So while you say you want to be successble, and it's easy to say it, if you're not engaged and don't have a platform that you're skilled at using, I just don't think you really want to.
Amen. But you have to become.
I'll accept
You
it.
have to become the best at it. So the world's changing. Everybody thinks technology supports you, and you do have to have a plan. It's so more important today to have a plan of, again, your databases for most people, most agents, 90% don't have all their people in their database. They're not feeding it every single day, and they're not reaching out to their people. That changed my world when I just started to do that a couple years ago. Right? I never even did that before. And so working your CRM, your database, and the new people, we do have pro coaching. We tell new people they can't work for us unless they are in pro coaching. And when they do that,
Perfect.
It's amazing the first year. I say, you did business in the first year. It took me 3 years to get to. The more you realize you need other people to grow your business, to direct and support you, to bring people in, it's very important.
And I will say this, about 25% of your business should come from your database. So if you turn around and you have 100 names in there, at the end of the year, there should be 25 pieces of business that you get out of there. Because when you follow up with your database, you're asking them, do you have friends, family member, coworkers? So it's just not that individual, it's that sphere. And because they said, hey, you were the greatest person, they gave you testimonials that are all over Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, right? Then you're also asking them to help you. That's how you make a living, is through referrals.
But just on testimonials, so we're always up 100, 500, 1,000. Reviews are so important today on Google. Get so much free business from Google by doing reviews, but I don't do them on social media with my clients.
The one thing about reviews is we all assume everybody reads, right? People are not reading as much. These reviews, and a lot of people even doubt reviews. Who here ever sees a Google review and you're like, you know what, I wonder. But a video testimonial, that's where you get that authenticity, right? A happy client at a closing saying what a great job they have with you, you know what? That's hard to fake.
Right.
And that's what's real.
But I look at my wife. Before she does anything, buys anything,
Right.
she Googles and looks at reviews, right? So you want to make sure when someone Googles, thinking about buying a home in Queen Village, my name's going to come up and there's going to be reviews on there. And guess what? That phone will ring. Instead of, it's Google reviews are just the
They're important, but
freest,
so will
easiest
another
thing.
agent, right? But you have both the reviews, but you've got video testimonials, right? Now, boom, goes even
I
further.
want to do it. You'll see.
And that's absolutely true. Because if you turn around and you have a review, you could have your best friend say, hey, this restaurant was great. My wife is still going on Google reviews, seeing what it is, and if there was some bad comments on it, she goes, oh, I don't know if we should go there. It doesn't matter that our best friend said it was the best meal they ever had. That is true.
I
Go
would
ahead, Rachel.
say with technology, there's so many options out there that the biggest thing is choosing what works for you. Choose one or two things and do them, learn them really well and be consistent with it. I think sometimes there's so many options of what you could be using that you just get overwhelmed and then we're not really doing anything well. It's even with the CRM. A CRM is only as good as the information that you input into it. The tool is good, but the most important part about it is setting aside that time every day to input your contacts, to plan your social media posts or whatever it is that you're going to do for the day. So I think 2 well-executed uses of technology is better than using 50 different apps and not being consistent.
Absolutely. Good point. Okay, so we're going to jump subjects. Right now, we're going to go to the class action lawsuits. Lita, why don't you lead off with this? And what we want is just an overview of what's going on. There's maybe some people in the room that know nothing about it. So just tell us what's going on.
I was going to ask, is anybody in the room familiar with the class action lawsuits that are going on?
Most people
Does
are.
anybody have questions about the class action lawsuits? Yeah, everybody. To give you a brief overview, the Stitzler lawsuit is the lawsuit in Missouri that was just decided in November. And immediately after that, there was another lawsuit called Gibson, which is a nationwide lawsuit, which is basically replicating the claims in the Stitzler lawsuit. And the big issue is an antitrust issue. And these are class action lawsuits, and there are many throughout the country. But the big antitrust issue is that are sellers unfairly paying for the buyer's commission, and is that an antitrust violation? So that's what the suits are basically about.
Right.
And the way it's changing real estate, or the way it may change real estate, is it may change the way buyers agents are compensated. And I can tell you in Pennsylvania, at the par level, what they're doing is they're saying, listen, we have these tools. We have these buyers forms. You need to have the conversations with your buyers in advance before you take them out, how you're going to get paid, because you can no longer rely on the seller promising you a piece of commission.
And then 7 days ago, matter of fact, 7 days exactly,
Yep.
up in Massachusetts, there was a lawsuit there
Yep.
that the DOJ came out with their letter of interest, and pretty much what they're saying, you're the attorney,
Yeah.
go ahead.
The DOJ objected to the proposed settlement offer because they felt that by allowing the sellers to still offer buyer compensation, even though it wasn't required or mandated, that it was going to change nothing, because what was going to happen is sellers were going to say, I'm afraid I don't want to lose any buyers, so I have to offer it. And it looks, at least to us lawyers, it looks as if the DOJ is positioning it to say, this can't happen anymore. Sellers deal with their own, buyers deal with their own. There's nothing in the multiple listing service about commission to the buyers, and we go from there. I don't know if that'll happen, but.
And they took that information from the Northwestern MLS that since 2019, they already had the option of putting zero in, and they saw that 99.9% people were still offering commissions to the buyer's agent. So they're looking at that. And then the other issue that they're looking at is steering. Okay, so if one person is offering compensations to the buyer agent and somebody else isn't, they don't want the realtors to steer. So they want the MLSs just to take that box out completely, so you will not know if a seller is willing to pay compensation or not. But it does not prevent you from asking, as a buyer's agent, asking for a commission. But you have to do it through, because now what's the law with that? The buyer has to ask for it. Correct.
The buyer asks for it as part of their offer, as part of their offer to purchase. And then it becomes more of a negotiation. Maybe one buyer's agent wants 1%, one wants 3%, one wants a flat fee, and then it becomes up to the sellers.
All right, I'm about to fall my hitting. So,
Go ahead.
in 2019, before I was taking a flight to Florida, I saw this case that was filed. I read it, I said, this is different. Unlike the other cases that have popped up around commissions over the years, people would hire, Jacoby and Myers or some firm nowhere, the NAR would squash them in a minute. I read this suit, I said, this is different. This is different. So, since 2019, I've been like Forrest Gump. I've been the lone man in the boat telling brokers and agents, you got to recalibrate your business. We always know that listings were important, right? But they were going to go from important to what? Critical. And the reality is, listen, I've been doing this my whole life. I've been doing this 100 years, okay? I know how it works. We know with certainty that the commission cooperation between agencies, it was like a good deal. Think about it, if you're a buyer's agent, think about being a buyer's agent for a minute. You got a buyer, they click on Zillow, they call you, right? You go, you show them the property, you put them under contract, and now the buyer agent goes to Cancun for a month. They completely abandon the transaction. They come back, they just happen to land the day of what? Closing. They go and pick up their check. Is it crazy that nobody has the ability to dispute that? The buyer can't, because the buyer didn't what? Seller couldn't, listing agent couldn't, buyer gets it. And think about this as a buyer's agent. You've never had to negotiate one thing. You're what? Who negotiated it for you? That's right. Listing agents forever, me too, we would work really hard at negotiating our commission, not only for ourselves, but for who else? Now think about it. Listen, I'm with you, I know. And this issue has been so emotional. I've gotten death threats. Death threats! How
find that hard to
dare you?
believe.
I'm a buyer's agent. I'm worth every dollar. And I go, so what are you worried about? They'll pay it. And they go, they don't have the money. Hold on a minute. Do we live in a world where if you can't afford... And then NAR went down the road of, whoa, low to moderate income buyers are going to be hurt. Did you hear that? You heard that. Let me ask you this. When I heard that, I really fell off my feet. And I said, wait a minute. You're saying low to moderate income buyers aren't going to be able to afford a buyer's agent? Is that making the assumption that all the realtors are going to get together at where are we? The museum? They're going to all get together and we're going to say, okay, everybody. Let's all get together and keep our commission at 3% so low to moderate income people get it. It's not going to happen. Do you think that there's going to be new buyer agents that might emerge, that might offer services for what? Less? Might there be new ways? The free market, am I right? The free market will form, unlocked, decoupled in this whole thing, and there's a lot of interpretations. This is a great thing. You know who it's great for? Listing agents. You know who else it's great for? Buyer's agents who wanted to become listing agents. Is there a buyer agent here in the room who would love to become a listing agent? All right. What he'll be saying in a month is, do you want a large Coke with that or small? Again, I'm only kidding. Let's have some fun. Let's be light. I'm concerned that there might be will there be buyer agents that will evaporate out of this business? Of course. And that might be a good thing. Because the number one complainer of buyer agents, you know who they are? Listing agents. Listing agents are the number. Anybody here was a listing agent that had one of their listings sold and the buyer agent was terrible? Yeah. And you got to pay him, right? Yeah. So now the big picture of this lawsuit is the big picture. If you're a great buyer's agent, guess what? And you can articulate your value, guess what? They'll pay it. If you're a great listing agent and you're great, you'll articulate your value. Everybody gets to just pay for the services they get to receive. This is a great thing. And if the industry consolidates, you know what we're going to be left with? A lot more great what? Agents.
Okay.
Consumers will benefit too.
Okay.
And I'm not stopping.
You stop.
Enough of him.
Enough with him. Okay, question, because I get this question asked all the time. When you go out on your listing presentations, what does that conversation look like? Do you have a script? What are you saying?
Every listing appointment for me is different. Some of them, if it's a referral and I know pretty much I'm getting the listing, I come in there in a different mindset. But I'm always prepared. I know the comps. I know the market. They're calling me for a reason. So I know going in there what the game plan is going to be.
No, but I'm saying is, what are you saying if they bring up the lawsuit? Because some people will. Right now, the percentage is super low. But what are you going to say? What is that conversation like when you turn around and you talk about commission?
I haven't dealt with that situation yet. It's probably going to be something that I'm going to have to put some research into because it's not going to be an easy conversation to convey.
But I got to speak. I'm sorry. I got to say one thing because I want to say something. This is going to be helpful.
Security.
Because we got an attorney in the room. And I got to say it. Just please don't say this. If anybody is saying to a seller, listen, it's lawsuit, but listen, it's really in your interests to offer out a big, fat premium commission, that's in your interest because you'll get more buyers and buyer agents will be motivated and you'll get more. If you say that, don't tell me. Because that actually is 100% what? Unethical. But we say it with no abandonment. Let's hear what you say, but please don't say you're going to get more money if you offer out a commission. Go ahead.
Rachel, go ahead.
So I tell my sellers they're going to get more money. No, I'm just kidding.
But that's what they say. That's what we say.
I think the biggest thing is your conversations with your buyers. If we think about why buyer agency came to be before we had the MLS and so forth, a lot of the times the listing agent handled the transaction and buyers felt they were being scammed. They wanted somebody that represented their interests exclusively. And so you have to put it into perspective. I think there's a pendulum. Buyers felt they were being scammed, so we're over here, now we're back. Sellers are feeling they're being scammed. And I think with the biggest outcome of this is really explain disclosure, really explain to your clients what buyer agency is. How do you get paid? I know when I bought my first house, I didn't know anything about real estate. I had a buyer's agent, and she didn't really even look for houses for me. I told her what houses I wanted to see. She opened the door. I told her what I wanted to offer. She argued with me. And I ended up getting my first house. And I remember seeing the settlement statement and seeing how much money she made. And at the time, I was making a cool $40K a year. And I was really annoyed. I thought it was an unfair compensation for the service that she provided. I think I do a lot of business. I'm bilingual, English and Spanish, and I do a lot of business with Spanish-speaking clients. And so when I go through the real estate documents, which are all in English, I have to translate them. And as I was translating them and explaining them to my clients in Spanish, I had to audit, all right, I should be going more in depth with my English-speaking clients as well, and really explaining what the agency means, why did it come about, and then really driving home that everything is negotiable in real estate. Everything is negotiable.
Okay, so what are you telling your people, since we're on buyer agency, are you telling them to put a buyer presentation together, just like you would have a listing presentation, to be able to show value?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that buyers, a lot of the time, they don't a lot of buyers, the first thing they ask you is, what are you going to charge me? And I think for a long time, agents' default was, you don't have to pay anything. The sellers pay commissions. And that's not correct. So you have to talk to, sometimes that's correct, but you have to tell buyers, listen, in some scenarios, we're offered compensation by the listing agent, and in other scenarios, we're not. And in that case, you'd be responsible for paying it. And as we know, a big prohibitive factor, especially for low or moderate income people, is coming up with money up front to purchase a house, down payment, and so forth. We have a lot of great loan products these days where you can put a very minimal amount of money down, but paying a buyer's agent on top of that is prohibitive for a lot of people. So it's an important conversation to have with your buyer and let them make the decision.
Okay, go ahead, Mike. But go ahead.
The industry's going to change no matter what. This is big, right? I've been being the old dog up here, okay? I've been through 5 changes. I remember we had sub-agency, didn't have buyer agency. That was going to take us out of the business or change the business big time. The internet was going to come in. We were going to go the way of the travel agent. Every change that happened, so we're entrepreneurs. So if we're truly entrepreneurs, every change that happened, we found a way to improve our business, to improve our relationship with our clients, and to grow. Will there be fallout from this? Absolutely. Is the bar to get in real estate too easy? Absolutely. My biggest frustration is agents that don't respond, blah, 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 blah. I could go on. So this industry will change. Our industry grew dramatically. We'll see a fallout in agents. However, it will be more professional for us and better for our customer to explain it. And I would sell my mom a house in the 80s, and I represented the seller. I never even knew the seller. And I really represent you, Mom. But so what we say, we're going to have to learn what we say. Are we going to have to create value? And I think if someone says, I want to buy $1 million house.
So there's so much.
It's unacceptable.
Yes.
It's unacceptable. We're in 2024. How's that even happening?
So this situation with the lawsuit and the commissions, it is going to create a further gaping hole to these communities. We should not ignore it. We have this bias. It's just beyond our mentality because we feel like we're in a certain bracket in this community or in the. However, where we are, we need to think about the people that are on the bottom that are trying to get out of the
I'm just here to share with you that there are many listing agents who have shared with me that they might be willing to charge a buyer $0. Can't get any better than that. So if a buyer can buy a house with 0 fee, I'm not saying it's going to help any. I'm just giving you what listing agents are saying. Listen, if I get a listing and I'm earning a premium commission from a listing agent in a dual agency, and we have an attorney here. Hold on, this is very important because there's a lot of misinformation about this. Has anybody here sold their own listing? Yes. Lots of people have. You haven't. Hold on. Let's not get emotional. Anybody got a drink? Scotch? There are listing agents. There are many listing agents in this country who represent both sides of the transaction. But listen, it's the fact that it's 60 in my speed zone is enough. I'm just telling you, there are many agents here in this room who have represented both sides of the transaction. Correct?
Correct.
My question is, the one area where agents are not trained in how to do it properly, just because you're representing both sides, doesn't mean you have a license to hurt another side. We all have this word fiduciary, correct? We've all heard this word. We throw this word around like crazy. If you are a listing agent and you represent a seller with a fiduciary, and you then end up representing the buyer with no fiduciary, right? Does that mean we have a license to do the other party wrong? The answer is no. We don't even are trained on this, that if you're an agent and you represent a consumer with a non-fiduciary, you have almost as equal legal responsibility, and correct me if I'm wrong, to handle people fairly, true?
Let me cut you off, though, because we don't have the answers. This is going to change.
Exactly.
I'm a listing agent. I have no time. I spend so much time with that buyer's agent.
Yeah.
So I can't represent both properly. I don't think this is the time to gauge.
Yeah, there's some questions. Let's move on.
Making sure
Go ahead. What is your question?
we have important
But
aspects
listing
to make sure
agents-
entry-level home buyers, the big thing we're all involved in, are in. That's why we have PAR and NAR. That's why we have our committees, our involvement. So we are all for that. Right. We're going to make sure that happens no matter what. We don't know what the structures are going to be. So
Right.
I think we're getting lost onto this field right here.
Okay,
I
do you have-
think it's a healthy
This could be a
discussion.
whole other time. It's a great discussion.
Yeah, but we're spending way too much time on this one. So go ahead.
If the
One question.
attorney-
We have two questions and we're moving on.
If the attorney could address the case that was filed in the Western District of Pennsylvania, a little bit closer to home.
That one I'm not as familiar with. I do know that there was one filed, but I think that's just in the Western District. Full disclosure, not as well versed in that one.
Okay, and then we have one question over here, and then we're going to switch topics. The class action lawsuit always creates some fire, right?
Yes, and it's one of the reasons I decided I wanted to attend this session. I think many of you know me. My name is Sandy Smith. I'm the home and real estate editor at Philadelphia Magazine. How's that rehab going on Wisconsin Heights, Rachel? Good. Anyway, one of the things crossed my mind, there is at least one brokerage here in this city that was founded several years ago where all the agents are on salary. And I believe one other brokerage that is taking that model nationwide. And I'm wondering, will this lawsuit, will this attempt to rebalance the scales make more agents consider salary rather than commission? Way to go.
Let's leave this as this. Right now, we don't know 100% of what's going to happen. What we do know, things are going to change, but we don't know what degree. We don't know if sellers won't offer any commissions at all. We don't know.
24 hours, 24/7, right? We work 24/7.
You'll work for 5 hours an hour. We don't know. We don't know if it's going to be 5%, 10%, or if it's going to be a real issue where the buyer's agents are really going to have to change. What they do, they're going to have to change anyway, but we don't know if it's going to be 30, 40% that you'll have commissions not offered. And understand, just because a commission's not offered, it doesn't mean you can't ask as a buyer's agent for that. And I will say this just to end this topic. There are so many grants out there. When I tell you right now, we have the Urban League, they're here, just talk to them. The NRH program, when I tell you you're getting $35,000 to $55,000 to get into a home, and you need $1,000 of your money, and you need a 640 and above credit score. There is so many programs out there, and that's just one. So there is money out there. We have to do a better job, maybe not enough, but it's all your job to educate. That's where it comes from. Talk to people, have conversations, let them know it is possible. Still, you can go into a room and ask a group of home buyers, and you can turn around and say, how much money do you need to put down to buy a house? And you're going to have 50% of them say 20%. Till this day, okay? And this is on everything. So it's your job to educate and let people know, okay? So now, I hate to go to this next subject. You're on a time limit.
Security.
You can't invite a speaker to this thing and not expect them to do that.
Strategies. Does anybody have strategies to be able to go out and get more listings, especially for the newer agents? So the newer agents may not feel comfortable, may not feel that they have value to offer. So what strategies, what would you say to an agent?
I'll start in quick. When you're a new agent, one of the things every new agent is told when you start in this business is you got to work your sphere of influence, correct? They bring you in, they say you get a database, tell your friends, call your family, and everyone does that. And I think it's the worst advice you can give an agent. In fact, I think it's probably the death knell of most agents' career. If you want to be successful as a new agent, even as an existing agent, you got to make the decision today to go outside your sphere of influence. Who here would admit they don't go after FSBOs, expireds, foreclosures, short sales, absentee homeowners, and strangers every single day? Who would admit they don't do it every single day? Most raise their hand. We don't do it because going after business outside of our sphere is what? It's uncomfortable, more difficult. That is the path. You can report back here the next time you bump into another agent walking up the driveway of a FSBO. You probably will never happen. So new agents, existing agents, make the decision today to start building your listing acquisition strategy outside your sphere of influence. And if you are uncomfortable in any of those verticals, get comfortable.
Go ahead, Rachel.
I would say what I do to get new listings and new clients, I don't typically have to go after expireds. I feel like once the listing expires, 50 agents are calling those sellers. And it's hard to get your voice in there. But I think that for me, I cross-market with my other businesses. I have a construction company and I have a lead testing business. The lead testing business does not make any money, which I just started to help my investor clients. But it was a good way to get face-to-face contact with a lot of investors in the area. Everybody needed a lead test. We priced it pretty competitively, and it was a way to get my face out there and meet people. In construction, people will hire us to look at a job, and I'll give them some information about what I do as a realtor as well. One of my things as when I send out my information for a lead testing appointment, I have one of the guys on my construction crew, I got him certified, so he does the test. Sometimes I'll accompany him at least to get it started if it's a new client, and that way I get to meet them. With what goes out with the disclosures that have to go with my lead testing information is also my bio, and a little, like a cheat sheet for Philadelphia landlords. Hey, do you know that you're supposed to be giving a rental suitability certificate when you have a new lease? It's not just a rental license. A lot of people don't know that. Giving them some value as to how, if you want help renting out your unit, we can help you with that. Renters turn into buyers and so forth. And if you have a team, you can pass off rental leads to them. So I would say cross-marketing works really well. And also just new activities, right? How can you get face-to-face with new people? I love doing all sorts of things, from salsa dancing, art classes, whatever you can do to get out there and meet people, because people are not going to come knock on your door. And it's a way for them to organically discover what it is that you do, and then you can provide your value.
Okay, I'm going to tell a real quick story. A shameless plug for the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez, where we talk everything real estate on YouTube. Be sure to check it out. But this Friday, I have Sharday Taylor from KW Empower on the show. She started door knocking. And it was such a fascinating subject. She said within the first 6 weeks of door knocking, she had 2 listings. So there's a million ways of doing things. Get a little uncomfortable, go outside of your sphere. It's always a great idea to do your sphere, but also go outside. Joe, you had something to say?
So what I was going to say is that I'm more listing heavy. And a story, I'll just share one tactic of what I started. There was a development, I really wanted to sell it. Northampton Hunt. Some of the Bucks County agents know, and I really wanted to get my name in that development. I basically took every street in that development, and religiously for about 18 months, I was sitting brochures, farming. And eventually, I created a name in that development. And now, about 12, 13 years later, probably every other listing that goes to the market in that development, I typically get, or somebody from my team gets. So something like old school, like a farming, but just be consistent with it, is a great way to get your foot in the door in certain developments.
All right, Mike, do you have any ideas?
If you're a newer agent, I always say, first of all, show up. Since COVID, people aren't coming back to the office. Early in my career, and it was actually right in this neighborhood on 4th and Bainbridge, is I showed up in the office at 9 o'clock, or I was on an appointment at 9 o'clock. Show up in the office, and I tell new agents, sit open houses, ask other agents in here to sit open houses. I see agents that are doing tremendous business that show up every day and are doing 2, 3, 4, 5 open houses each weekend, because then you'll be creating that image among your social media that, hey, I'm a real estate professional. You're at that open house, you're doing a video while you're there. Oh, and rentals are incredible, especially in town, because those buyers, hey, first of all, why are you renting? I don't really have the down payment. I can get you in for, talk to my mortgage. But when you do rent them, we're just not sure 9 months later, they're going to probably buy a home. Open houses, ask agents in your office, take those and make those special. I have so many agents that have created their business by sitting my open houses over the years. But don't do 1 or 2, do 3, 4, 5 each weekend. Do twilight open houses, do lunchtime, hour open house. Sit there and work. Show up in the office, network, go to events, and try to, whether it's where you went to school, go back to the people, start to friend people that you went to school with, and go to events. So this is not rocket. This is a personal business. That's why I love real estate. It's a personal business. And when I get one person, I get their friends, their work people, their family. Because 3 things, I'll shut up in 1 second, Pat. I see you looking at me. 3 things.
I'm getting jealous.
Early on in my career, right, I was with a no-name company, and I saw these top people, and I couldn't get in the doors, and it was hard for me. And so I just said, I am going to be the most knowledgeable agent in the real estate industry. So we didn't have the internet then. I took classes at Temple, and I went to every convention. I read every book. 2, I'm going to have the best reputation in the industry. So people know when they call me, I call them right back. I pick the phone up. I help them, stuff like that. And then 3, I used to say I'm going to work the hardest. Today with technology, I say I'm going to work the hardest and the smartest. So today, those 3 things, best reputation, most knowledgeable, and communicate effectively and work the smartest. It's the best business in the world.
Can I add one more thing? Create differentiation amongst you and your competition. We're all selling the same thing, right? Think about how you can change what you do. Come up with unique value propositions. Do things that not everybody does. Because when you're likable, lovable, do the same thing, all the same services, the seller might choose who might be cheaper. Or Superman. Create a unique value proposition that maybe no one's ever heard of before, and that just might help you make the
Unique, unique marketing position. Mike McCann, real estate man. That sign went up around 94.
Right.
Changed my game. It was fun. It was simple. That's different than
Right, exactly.
unique. And I was a first-time buyer specialist.
Right.
Brand program.
But it was catchy. Nobody forgot you. Go ahead.
No, I just want to add a quick story. My first year, about 43 houses, 18 were listings, and there was only one listing I didn't get, and that was the listing held by this man right here. So if I accidentally push him off the stage, don't worry about it. But I was new, and the listing, I think I told this story before, I was new, maybe about 60 days in, and I went after a listing somewhere around South Street. It was $20 million in inventory. And the point that I'm trying to make is ask for the business. So I had no idea what I was doing, but I showed up, and it was a construction site, and no one told me that construction sites, people working don't care anything about you or your clothes or your shoes, and it was an awful experience. And the guy looked at me and said, "Who are you? And who sent you?" And I'm like, "I'm Super Dave, and I want to list all these properties." And he looked at me, and he was so impressed with me just being whoever. He said, and he said, "Oh," and they said the Mike McCann team just left with 300 people, and another team just came, and it was just me and one other person. And he said, "You know what? Come back tomorrow because we have to talk." So the point of that is make sure you ask for the business. And with people with short attention spans, it's important because on Monday, they don't want to sell. Tuesday, they are thinking about it. Friday, they sign a contract. There's so many things going on. Thank you for coming. There's so many things going on in someone's head nowadays that you have to constantly remind people that you're a real estate professional, constantly remind people that you're available for any questions they may have or any services that they need. So ask for the business.
Okay, we're going to switch subjects real quick. The last subject we're going to cover. But the key to that story, and from everything, be a student. Treat the business like a business, right? Go on the MLS, see what's sold, what new listings, what price reductions. Be a student, right? And don't be afraid to ask for the business. And think outside of the box, right? So a bunch of keys that we just took right there. And be persistent. Send those flyers, send marketing material for a year and a half, okay? Okay, so now, we're going to end this thing with, if you had to start all over again, Mike, if you went to 1842, I'm teasing you. No, if you went back.
Shots fired. Security.
If you had to start all over again, what would be the one thing you would do, and finish up with it to show that everybody's human? What was the bonehead thing that you did? You said, "I can't believe I ever tried that."
I would go with what I learned, be around the top 5 people is who you become, right? So I'd go with who I feel is mentor. I went with a no-name company and no mentors. So I'd go with who's going to give me the top 5 people I want to be around. Look at people's business who you respect. So that's the one thing I would do. And the biggest mistake I had was, but I don't consider that mistake, is I went with, no, they didn't even sell real estate. I was in the basement of a management company that managed Section 8 housing, and I was a real estate guy. They gave me some book, and I was in the basement. But I made up my mind, because I saw what people were doing, that I was going to be successful. So that gave me the tenacity of, people weren't letting me, they wouldn't let me in South Philly. I wasn't Italian. They wouldn't let me in Center City because I didn't go up there. I couldn't get indoors. Who's this really? But that made me. So I have, Mike McCannism, patient persistence overcomes resistance, as long as you never give up. I love that. Ask for the bid. You look at it. If I can do it, you can do it. Actually, if I can do it, you can do it better if that's what you make up your mind to be. Our business is not, I used to work in the sewers. It was physical. I had to really work. Our business is not physical. It's mental. And mental stress is much more than physical stress. I've never seen such sadness since COVID and this 2023 downturn. Fastest downturn in 40 years for real estate sales. So if you survive that, you're a hero, but don't look, we're not going to have 2021 or 2022 again. But it's your mindset and who you're around is the most important thing.
Dave, same question for you. If you were starting all over again, what would you be doing?
Be more consistent. I'm the type to throw everything against the wall. A lot of things work. I couldn't tell you what worked, but it works. And I would be more consistent with one thing, but otherwise, my personality, I like trying different things. So
Okay, and then what was a bonehead mistake that you did that you were saying, I can't believe I did that? There's no bonehead mistakes over here, right?
Any attorneys in here? Just making sure. That's
Rachel, you're up.
All right. So I guess if I could do anything differently, I would.
Or no, where
Or
would you
what was-
start?
what was the first
If you were starting all over
Yeah.
again, what would be the one thing you would do? What have you learned throughout the years and that you would implement immediately?
When I started in real estate, I really wasn't planning on being a realtor. I just wanted to keep my license active. I had gotten it. I was working in commercial finance. And my neighbor asked me to sell their home for them, and that client turned into like their cousin and their other cousin and their friend. And I just did it. But if I had realized you could actually have a career in real estate earlier, I would have started. I would have paid a lot more attention to that business, to building that business in those early years than I did. I was more focused on construction. So that's something I would have done differently. Or if I was starting out, that I would do that. I would really focus on networking and getting out there and meeting people.
Okay, very good. Did you want to jump in there later?
No.
No.
I don't think you would find my
No, that's right.
legal
Lita's
best and worst.
also licensed, but she's not active, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Joe, what about
If I were to go back in time and start again, I would focus strictly on listings. Back to the original discussion about the class action, inventory is key. When you have the inventory, the buyers will come, and that's what you have to focus on. Focus on getting inventory, focus on listing homes, because that's where the money's at. And when you have the inventory, that's when things come together. And probably the bonehead move is probably not starting the CRM sooner. Get your CRM together.
Perfect. Okay,
All right, take off your coats.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I would say the biggest
2 minutes.
mistake I made early on in my career was not wanting accountability. I think that accountability in our industry is the most healthy and best thing, and we're in an industry where everybody feels they're an independent contractor. They can do what they want to do whenever they want to do it. That's both the blessing and the curse of the business. The mistake when I was told, oh, get into real estate, it's easy, make your own hours. Not true. Your clients make your hours for you. So I think that learning the importance of accountability, I think that if you're a broker owner and you don't have accountability with your agent or teams, I think you're doing them a disservice. So that to me was something that I learned very quickly and tried to infuse that in my world. As far as the biggest bonehead decision I ever made, sit in open houses on a Sunday. Why would I ever spend 4 hours on a Sunday in someone else, 2 hours on a Sunday, when Sunday is the number one best time to prospect for what? Listings. Sunday's the best day for prospecting. So that was my bonehead move. I was sitting there waiting for someone to walk in. I was waiting for a client rather than go out there and create one.
Okay, does anybody we're wrapping it up, does anybody have any questions? And it could be pretty much anything for the panel. Josh is out here. If anybody, here we go.
Hi, my name is Yasmin. I have 2 questions. One for our financing, because you keep saying 640, 680. The majority of my clients are nowhere near that, especially with having the pandemic. You have single parents that have lots of loans that they still have to pay off. Giving that $1,000 is okay, great, but now you are giving them the 640. Then you want them to go and rebuild their credit, which takes forever. And then you want them to have their own home. It's not that easy. So I think the lenders need to have a different program or have something that people that actually want to have a home, but because they have their credit shot or something happened with it, that's not in their responsibility. It wasn't in their power with it. It needs to be a little bit changed or something to make it easier for them. It's not that easy for them. That was my first thing.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And the second thing, I just want to get it out there, is for our attorney friend. Hi. I am in court at least once a week in the city of Philadelphia for evictions. It is not landlord friendly at all. So now we have people that are here, thank you, 6 months to 8 months to evict someone, not including the money lost, not including the damages that are there, and then you're asking us to have Section 8, you're asking us to help minorities, you're asking investors to really put themselves out on a limb. There should be some kind of thing, either in the power forms for tenants and landlords to be a little bit equal, or through the city that has to be a little bit equal, because it's really hard. Then you got to go to the sheriff, and then they don't show up, and then this happens and that happens. Once it took me almost a year, because in December they do favors. They don't want to kick anyone out because it's the holidays. That's really not fair to all these investors and all these landlords.
Okay, do you want to chime in on that?
And I understand what you're saying, and that is true. It is a little easier in some of the counties for eviction. Philadelphia is very difficult for landlords. There's no way around that. I think that's evolved, though, because there has been such sort of an abuse for many years of the system by landlords. And so Philadelphia has taken a very strong stance that they're going to make it hard. So I think if you're looking for parity, you've got to look to your council leaders, and you've got to look to politicians, and you've got to discuss how to, as Rachel said, the pendulum always swings one way or another. In Philadelphia, it's not very landlord friendly. If you want it to swing back, you've got to work with the politicians and talk to them, and maybe talk about some sort of common sense negotiations that can take place to make it easier for landlords to evict, but not so easy for landlords to abuse the process.
I was going to add something to that. It's an interesting topic, too, because I think we want to help people stay in their homes, but the fact that it does take so long to evict people, I think it actually negatively impacts a lot of renters, because landlords are not willing to take a chance on people. And that's another kind of flip side of the coin. Because, all right, somebody with a lower credit score, they're like, oh, if they don't pay, it's going to take me 6 months to get them out, and I'm going to lose X amount of dollars. It's harder to justify taking that risk. It makes it, I think, ultimately harder if our systems aren't streamlined in the city for people to get into homes. I think it makes the guidelines be more efficient.
And as far as credit, is just education. People don't learn how credit works. It's just education. It's a tough deal. If you don't have enough money to pay your bills and your credit suffers, there's really not a whole heck of a lot you can do, unfortunately, as far as that concerned. But it's education, knowing how credit works is super important. Okay,
we have a question from Sarah Hawansky here.
Okay, one last question. And
hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Hawansky, president of White Label Consulting, and my question is for Mike. You're obviously well known throughout the real estate industry for being an incredible leader, and I've consulted with lots of agents that want to build teams. What would be your advice for a successful agent trying to build a team?
It's a great point. So before you build a team, you create to me, and I'm old school, I had the first assistant in '89, second one in '92, and the first buyer's agent in '96 when buyer agency came around. So it was before this whole big swoop of teams. And the reason that I did that, and that's where I still stand today, is I grew my business, and then I couldn't handle the business that was coming in. So Alan Dom told me in a class, Mike, if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. So I saved up the money and got one assistant. And then my business grew, and I got another assistant. Then I wanted to be home on Saturdays because I had kids. So buyer agency came out, and I hired a buyer's agent. So what I'm saying is everybody wants to come in and have this mega team. Most teams don't work. Most teams don't last a long time. The proud thing with me is I have people on my team 25 years, 23 years, 20 years, 18 years. I built for life. And they're not cut. When you come on my team, it's more beneficial for you than it is for me. It can't be about the team leader making money off of that person. What I had a team for was to support my growth and make sure I had people, Pat, I can't see her, man, out of my way. Pat, move. Sorry, I have to look in somebody's eyes. I'm sorry, man. It has to be, you have to me, you get an assistant or two, you have the leads coming in, and then when someone comes, you can give them a benefit, but you make sure you hire right, My process is really strong to get in because I want people to have my work ethic, but me as my character, my hardworking, honest, helping, all that stuff. So growing a team to me is when you can give somebody something and you can't handle all the leads that are coming in, and you get a like-minded person that wants to build a business for life. We call it a life worth living, a business worth owning, and a life worth living, and build for life. So I see people leaving teams because they're just paying this money and they're not getting any benefit, coaching, training, support, entrepreneurship. And it's not about the team. Yes, my name is on the brand, and that was a decision that we made. But if they don't do better with me, then I've failed. And so that's my mindset, just like with my clients. I'll do anything to make my clients become a raging fan, go above and beyond. I say I'm the air traffic controller. I help them with everything in their life, not just selling real estate. So it's the commitment, and you have to love people in our business. So I have to love when a new agent's doing good. I love that. That's better than me selling a $2 million house. So it's a mindset.
Okay, there we go. We're going to take some pictures right now. Mike, thank you for being here. Dave, thanks for being here. Rachel, Lita, Joe, Scott, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Go ahead.
One more time for our panel. Thank you all for attending. I hope it's mission accomplished. I know you picked something up. Thank you to all of our sponsors, and stay tuned for upcoming events. Brian Sanders Photography will be taking some group photos here.